So Stacks 2.1 is kind of like the 2.0 we wished we launched, is the way I would describe it. We launched 2.0 in January of last year. There was still a bunch of things we would have liked to have shipped in 2.0 that we just didn't have time to do. And there was time pressure put in place through other external forces. So getting 2.0 was out the door was prioritized over finishing everything we wanted to do. And so we decided instead to promise a 2.1 release that would add back those features. And that would also give everyone in the ecosystem a chance to figure out what was missing from 2.0 that they would like to see in 2.1. So 2.1 will be a hard fork. It is a backwards incompatible change that adds a bunch of new Clarity keywords that we wish were in place earlier. It makes it easier to do certain things like deal with public keys and signatures, makes it easier to parse data that came from like an Oracle or from the Bitcoin chain, makes it easier to validate Bitcoin transactions. And it also enhances a lot of like under the hood reliability things that unfortunately just can't be fixed without a breaking change. So that's been like something that everyone like at Foundation, at Hero, at Trust Machines, and in the ecosystem have really been just kind of working on in the background for the past like year and a half or so. We're trying to get it out the door this year. Right now, the whole BNS getting popular and congesting the network is kind of taken top priority for me right now. Like, how might we decongest the network? But like I said, working in the background isn't like when something is not on fire, it's something we work on. We're heads down getting it out the door. We're almost done. There's not that many big changes left in the code base to make that a reality. Mostly things are just still if they are not yet merged or just under review. Like right now we have a bunch of changes to stacking so that you can avoid a cooldown cycle, or you can increase the amount of stacks you have stacked. There's a PR out right now that adds support for SegWit. So you can use a SegWit address to receive your rewards, as well as mine from a SegWit address or even a Taproot address. So getting all of those wrapped up and bundled up, like if you want to follow along, I can drop a link here in the chat. Let's see, time estimates. There's a discussion that we have on the Stacks blockchain repo. I'm just going to drop the link to right here that talks about everything that's in flight in more detail for those who are curious. As you can see, almost everything that's considered very high or high pain by its absence either has a PR out now or will soon have a PR out now. So we're just wrapping up the implementation. But at the end of the day, because this is a hard fork, there needs to be, first of all, a SIP that describes everything that goes into it in plain English. And second of all, the community itself needs to vote to activate the SIP so that any sorts of breaking changes in general only take effect with permission from the community. It's not like other blockchains, for example, where developers just make a new release and say, have fun, folks. Like, that's not the way we work here. Every breaking change must happen with community support in the Stacks ecosystem. So in order to facilitate that, and this is not the first time we've done this, for those of you who've been around last year, there was Stacks 2.05, which added some intermediate fixes. That's another breaking change. The way by which we'll execute the 2.1 upgrade will be through an on-chain vote with stacked stacks, as well as with a snapshot of everyone's stacks balances prior to when the SIP gets ratified. The idea being is that the activation criteria for the SIP that describes 2.1, which is right now SIP 15, still very much a draft. The criteria we're thinking of will be similar to SIP 12, where if you are stacking now or had stacked in the last reward cycle, and you're just in cooldown right now, you'll have the ability to cast a vote yes or no just by sending some Bitcoin from your POX address to a yes burn address or a no burn address. Just a tiny amount, a dust amount is totally fine. It just has to be linked to your POX address so we can figure out from there how many stacks they represent. If you are stacking through a pool, what you would do is you would do the same thing on the Stacks chain. Instead of on Bitcoin, you would just send a small amount of stacks to a yes burn address or a no burn address. This would let you do this from any exchange, from any wallet. It's literally a stacks transfer with a yes or a no. If there is enough support for yeses, like in absolute terms, if enough stacks votes yes, and also in relative terms, if of the voting stacks, enough vote yes more so than no, then the SIP would ratify. The idea here is that we would only do a breaking change if it's not contentious. The worst thing you can do in a blockchain, in my opinion, is make a breaking change that is contentious, because that's going to lead to a chain split or it's going to lead to a bunch of people being mad, selling all their tokens and crashing the market in the process. So the purpose of doing this extra work here through the SIP process is to make sure that people can put their money where their mouths are. It's not the loudest voices on social media. It's not the loudest voices on Discord or Telegram, but it's the people who stand to, who first of all believe in the long-term value of the ecosystem because they're stacking, and second of all, who would stand to lose the most or a lot if in the event of a contentious change going through. So we'll have details coming in the coming weeks once things aren't so much on fire today, which hopefully will calm down in the next week or so. Instructions for how to vote will be sent out as soon as we have the means ready to do so. And I believe right now there's Jenny can speak to this more. I think there's a survey going around just to do like an assessment of how much community knowledge there currently is on the 2.1 upgrade. Because one thing that's going to be important for this vote as well as for any vote is high turnout. Like, can we have high turnout? And so we're just trying to beat the drum right now just to prep everyone for this upgrade that's going to be coming down the pipeline in the coming months.